Surah Al-Mu'minun. Surah Al-Mu'minun consists of 118 verses, including the Makkiyyah chapters. It is called Al-Mu'minun because the beginning of this verse explains what the characteristics of believers should be, which will lead to their luck in the afterlife and the peace of their souls in the world. These qualities are so high that they have become morals for the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The main contents of Surah Al-Mu'minun, characteristics of a believer, mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun verses 1 to 11. The lucky believers are those who are devout in prayer, abandon useless actions and words, pay zakat, guard their private parts except for their wives or servants, are not reprehensible because of this, and do not go beyond the limits in seeking an outlet for their desires. They are also lucky because they keep their mandates and promises, as well as praying, so that they will inherit paradise and live forever in it. The process of human genesis, mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun verses 12 to 16. Allah explains the process of human creation from the essence of the earth, becoming semen in the womb, then changing into blood, a lump of flesh, bones and covered with flesh, before finally becoming a creature that is in another form, showing His greatness as the best creator. Humans are reminded that after living, they will surely die, and on the day of judgment they will be resurrected. Signs of Allah's power, mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun verses 17 to 20. Allah created 7 heavens above mankind and is not unaware of His creation, sending down water from the sky in certain quantities which then settles on the earth, and is able to remove it. With this water, Allah grows gardens of date palms and grapes, which give various fruits to eat. Allah also grows olive trees on Mount Sinai that produce oil and delicious food for those who eat them. Livestock as a favor of Allah that must be grateful for. Mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun verses 21 to 22, Allah teaches humans lessons through livestock. They provide milk and other benefits as well as being a source of food. Livestock were also used for transportation, as on them and on ships humans were transported. The story of Prophet Noah. Mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun verses 23 to 31, Allah sent Noah to his people to order them to worship Allah. But the pagan leaders refused and considered Noah to be just an ordinary human being, even calling him crazy. So Noah prayed to Allah for help. Allah ordered Noah to build a ship with His guidance, and when His command came, Noah was asked to bring a pair of animals of each type and their families into the ship. When they were on the ship, Noah thanked God for saving them and prayed to be placed in a blessed place. This incident was a sign of Allah's greatness and a trial for Noah's people, before Allah created other people after them, such as the Ad people. The story of the Prophet Hud. Mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun verses 32 to 41, Allah sent a messenger to a people who denied the afterlife, but the disbelievers rejected it and considered the messenger to be just an ordinary human being. They doubted resurrection after death and rejected the truth given. The apostle was lied to and in his prayer asked Allah for help. Allah emphasized that they would regret it, and finally the unjust people would be destroyed with thunderous destruction, reduced to being like rubbish washed away by the flood. The story of the prophets Saleh, Lut and Shu'aib, mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun verses 42 to 44. Allah created different peoples after the previous people, and no one can change the fate of death or delay it. Allah sent His messengers sequentially, but every time a messenger was sent to a people, they denied him. As a result, Allah destroys some people and others as a lesson for mankind, and those who do not believe will experience destruction. The story of Prophet Moses and Harun, mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun verses 45 to 49. Allah sent the Prophet Musa and his brother Harun to Pharaoh and his people, bringing signs of his greatness, but they were still arrogant. The leaders of their people refused to believe in Moses and Harun, considering them to be just ordinary people, even though the descendants of Israel were a people who devoted themselves to them. As a result, they denied both of them and were among the destroyed. Allah had given the book, Torah, to Moses as a guide for the descendants of Israel. The story of the prophet Isa, mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun verse 50. Allah created Isa as a sign of his greatness, along with his mother Mary, and protected them on a quiet plateau with flowing water. Religious unity brought by the apostles, mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun verses 51 to 56. Allah commanded the apostles to eat good food and do good deeds because He is all-knowing of their deeds. The true religion is the one religion of monotheism, and Allah is the one God, so let them fear Him. However, the followers of the apostles were divided into groups who were proud of their respective beliefs, so Allah left them in error until the appointed time. Allah confirms that the provision of wealth and children is not a sign that He will immediately give them goodness, but they do not realize it. Traits of a sincere Muslim, mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun verses 57 to 61. People, those who are very careful because they fear the punishment of God, who believe in the signs of His power, who do not associate others with God, and who do good with fear and the awareness that they will return to Him, they hasten in doing good and become the first to obtain it. The obligation to practice religion to the limit of one's ability, mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun verse 62. Allah emphasizes that He does not burden a person beyond what they are able to do, according to their respective abilities. Allah has an accurate and true record of each individual's actions, and there is no injustice from Him towards anyone. A strong rebuke to the unbelievers, mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun verses 63 to 70. The disbelievers continue to go astray and commit bad deeds apart from understanding the Quran. When tormented, those who live in luxury ask for help, but at that time help will not be given. Even though the verses of the Quran are always read to them, they still boast, turn away from the truth, and speak evil words against the Quran. They do not meditate on the word of Allah, do not recognize their messenger, even call the Prophet Muhammad crazy, even though he brought the truth that most of them hate.
Threat of doom for unbelievers, mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun verses 71 to 77. Allah stated that if the truth follows the wishes of the disbelievers, then the heavens, the earth, and everything in them will perish. But they turned away from the warnings of the Quran, which had been given as a warning. The Prophet Muhammad emphasized that a reward from God was better than asking them for a reward, because He only called them to the straight path. Those who do not believe in the afterlife have strayed from the right path, and if Allah had mercy on them and removed the disasters that befell them, they would still be swaying in error. Even though Allah has inflicted torment on them, they still do not submit to Him and do not humble themselves, so that if the door of harsh punishment is opened, they will despair. Propositions about the power of Allah, mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun verses 78 to 80. Allah created human hearing, sight and conscience, but few of them are grateful for these blessings. He also created and reproduced humans on earth, and to Him all will be gathered. It is Allah who gives life and death and has power over the change of night and day, but humans often do not understand this. Disbelief of the unbelievers towards the day of resurrection, mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun verses 81 to 83. The disbelievers spoke the same words as the ancients, doubted resurrection after death, and considered promises of resurrection to be mere fairy tales. They question whether it is true that they will be resurrected after dying while they become dirt and bones. This is an attitude of doubt and rejection of the belief in the resurrection that was promised to them and their ancestors. Refutation of the infidels standing on the day of resurrection, mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun, verses 84 to 90. The Prophet Muhammad was asked to confirm the ownership of the earth and sky to Allah, as well as His power which covers everything. Even though they acknowledge Allah's ownership of the universe, they remain devout and deluded. Even though the truth has been told to them, they still act as liars. Refutation of the unbelievers that Allah has children and allies, Mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun verses 91 to 92, Allah insists that He has no children and that there are no other gods equal to Him. Because if that were the case, every god would take what He created and compete with each other, which is certainly impossible. Allah is most pure in the attributes that they give Him, because He is all-knowing of all the unseen and visible, and most high of all forms of fellowship that they engage in. Prayer that Allah taught the Prophet Muhammad. Mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun verses 93 to 100. The Prophet Muhammad asked Allah not to be included in the group of unjust people, and asked to be shown the punishment that had been promised to the disbelievers. Allah gave assurance to the Prophet Muhammad that He truly had the power to show them their punishment. The Prophet Muhammad was asked to reject the evils of unbelievers in a better way, because Allah knows better about their characteristics. Apart from that, the Prophet Muhammad also asked Allah for protection from the whispers of Satan and the arrival of unbelievers. Unbelievers who previously rejected the truth will regret their actions when death overtakes them, but by then it will be too late to turn back and do good deeds. The awesomeness of doomsday, mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun verses 101 to 111. On the day of resurrection, when the trumpet is blown, there will be no more family ties between them, and they will not question each other. People whose scales of goodness are heavy will be lucky people, while those whose scales of goodness are light will suffer losses and remain in hell in a terrible state. Even though the verses of Allah have been recited to them, they always deny them. Unjust people who ask Allah for forgiveness after being tormented in hell will have their request rejected and ordered to remain in humiliation. However, some of Allah's servants who believe ask Him for forgiveness and mercy, and Allah is the best giver of mercy. Even though they had been made the object of ridicule on that day, Allah rewarded them for their patience, and they were the victors. Conclusion of Surah Al-Mu'minun, mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun verses 112 to 118. Allah asked people how long they would stay on earth, and they answered a day or half a day, leaving that calculation to those who know better. Allah states that humans will only stay on earth for a short time if they are truly aware of it. Allah emphasizes that humans were not created in vain and will definitely be returned to Him. Allah, the Most High and the True King, there is no God but Him, the owner of the noble throne. People who worship gods other than Allah without clear proof will only count before their Lord, and disbelievers will not have good luck. The Prophet Muhammad asked Allah for His forgiveness and mercy because Allah is the best giver of mercy. Conclusion of Surah Al-Mu'minun. Surah Al-Mu'minun begins by explaining the characteristics of believers who are happy in this world and the hereafter, emphasizing that although Allah does not differentiate between believers and unbelievers in this world, true happiness will only be achieved by believers in the hereafter. The surah also relates the experiences of the prophets and the people they faced, showing that the followers of the prophets always receive help from Allah, while those who deny will be destroyed as a lesson for future generations. After describing the horrors of the day of resurrection, the surah concludes with an explanation of the results that will be received by believers and unbelievers in the hereafter. In the context of faith, the surah affirms the certainty of the day of resurrection and that Allah does not need children or partners. The laws discussed include burdens that are in accordance with human capabilities, the call of the apostles to consume halal food, and the similarities of the main points of religion, even though their laws are different. The stories told include the prophets Noah, Alaihi Salam, Hud, Alaihi Salam, Moses, Alaihi Salam, Aaron, Alaihi Salam, and Isa, Alaihi Salam. In addition, this chapter includes 7 things that must be fulfilled by a believer to achieve good fortune in this world and the hereafter. The process of human creation, signs of people who hasten to do good, and the importance of being grateful for Allah's blessings.